I'm Veetha Sewkuran, President of the KZN Blind and Deaf Society. My position is purely voluntary, but it is literally a full-time job that doesn't pay me. The KZN Blind and Deaf Society was founded in 1936, and it was founded by a woman Constance Costin, who found that there was a need for a society for the blind when she found many Indian blind beggars on the streets of Durban. And that's how the Natal Society for the Blind was formed. Then later, it was had become the Natal Indian Blind Society, and then it was the Natal Indian and Bantu Blind Society. And thereafter, fast forward to the 1960s, there was a need for the deaf as well, so it became the Natal Indian Blind and Deaf Society. And fast forward again to after transformation, we became known as the KwaZulu-Natal Blind and Deaf Society. The vision and the mission of the society remains the same. You know, our mandate is the same, and that is to uplift, upskill, and make our beneficiaries, proud members of society, so that they can actually take their places amongst the able-bodied counterparts. That's quite a journey. It's actually quite a story, actually. So in 2016, I joined the society as a volunteer, mostly getting involved in their fundraising projects. And I slowly got more involved in some of the services that the society offered. And the service that touched my heart the most was the children with multiple disabilities. Now, I think a lot of people don't know that they are blind and they are deaf, but there are kids out there who have other disabilities. Autism is actually very common amongst blind children. Then you have those with cerebral palsy and physical disabilities, etc. So the program we offer is where we bring in the kids once a month, and we bring in the caregiver or the parents as well. And the kids are given OT and physiotherapy, whilst the parents and the caregivers are in a support group. So that was something that I actually took upon myself, and I would find funding for that and lunches, etc. And in 2018, at the beginning of 2018, I was nominated and elected onto the board of the society. January 2019, when the society was hit with a huge disaster and a fraud was unfolded. April 2019, we had, obviously the society was left with no money, etc. And we had two businessmen that came to the society's rescue. So they actually then, together with the board, decided that the board needed to dissolve. And funny thing is that everybody who sat on the board, trustees, etc., all faded and disappeared into the woodworks. And there were 5 of us that were actually left standing. There were 2 that were our honorary life vice presidents, who were too old to take on any task. And then it was myself and 2 others. And then I was actually at that point nominated to be the chairperson of this working committee that was founded. So I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I think a question that I still try to answer is, was I at the right place at the wrong time, or the wrong place at the right time, I think there was a lot of apprehension because of the situation of the society. No money, the fraud was unfolded, the public was all up in arms, because remember, we rely on public funding. And obviously my family were very concerned. What are you getting yourself into? Do you really think you can do this, etc.? But you got to take a step back and not think about yourself. You got to think about those that you serve. And I think at that point, it's what I did. And the journey then became more arduous, because it wasn't just having to deal with the day-to-day running of the organization. It was actually then having to deal with forensic audits. We went through 2 forensic audits. We went through CCMA cases because there were staff that had to be let go. A criminal case, a civil case, to the point where I actually had to work with private investigators looking for the perpetrators who committed the fraud because they went into hiding. And it was actually something that I was never experienced to do. None of this was my forte. I ran a business years ago with a family business. I worked when I was much younger, but all of this was new. And everything I had to now learn. I mean, forensic audit is a big deal, and Veetha knew nothing about it. But eventually you learn everything because you need to. So besides having to deal with all of that, I also had to ensure that the services that we had running continued running, that the funding that we had for certain services that was stolen, we had to find money to actually complete these projects so that we could save face. So together with one fundraiser, who's also a volunteer, we had to put up all of these events, etc., to find the money to continue with these services. One was the early childhood detection, which was an amazing service where we have a mobile unit that goes out to detect the hearing, sight, and speech of preschoolers. 3,503 years were detected as having a disability. So that's how wonderful this program is. But the money was stolen and we had to find money to finish the project. Then we had other projects as well that had to be, to be completed. Besides that, we had staff to pay because all of this is not going to continue if there's no staff. So we had staff to pay as well. So it actually was a lot. I had to be there full time. I had to work as a member of staff besides looking at all the governance issues. Because at that point we were restructuring and we had to rebrand the KZN Blind and Deaf Society. Well, actually the organization has had to grow literally from ground up, because with the zero bank balance, all of these services that we were that the society offered, the staff complement, and I mean it's not a small organization. We have a branch in Pietermaritzburg and we have a branch in Ulundi. And the work that they do out there is actually work that needs recognition as well. It's orientation and mobility, which people don't even know what an orientation and mobility service is all about, you know. But all of these services had to be still funded, it had to be still taken care of, and staff had to still be paid. So it was a nightmare. I mean, month end, and I would lie in bed thinking, how are we going to get money now to pay staff? You know, we have a certain amount that comes through government subsidy, but the rest of it is all fundraising. But I think God has been good. And somehow, some way, the money used to come, and then our staff has never gone without being paid. It was easy to ask people for money, because being a volunteer, it's easy to ask people for money because I'm not paying myself. So the money was for everybody else and everything else. So I had to draw on people that I knew, businesses that I could actually look, towards for help and assistance. So that's what actually helped us through, and it was also through, as I said, the various events that we had. So we would go to businesses and ask them to buy a table for a dinner or a table for a Mother's Day breakfast, and that. So, you know, those are the things that we had to do. But rebranding the society, I think, was actually something that made the biggest difference in getting the society to where we have it today. Social media played a huge difference, because the print media, we had a lot of negativity. We never told our side of the story. It was always other people that would give their opinions, but we never told our side of the story because we never found the right time to do it. So we didn't rely on the print media. Some of them were actually good, but most of them, and I think it was the most widely read newspapers that actually, printed the negativity, and that's what brought that on. So we had to rely a lot on social media to get ourselves rebranded again, and we had to use the products that we could to get it out there so that we could showcase the KZN Blind and Deaf Society and the work that we are doing, right? And one of the big events that we've had since 2017, and we had to grow this event, which is growing every year, is called I Can Walk. Now that was something that also I was very passionate about right from the beginning. So it started off as a walk with a difference, where you walked with the partner who was blindfolded, right? So it started off as a 5-kilometer fun walk where participants walked like that. But as the event grew and as we rebranded, we realized that the athletic clubs were also getting interested in this event. So we then opened it out to the athletic clubs, and now we have a 5-kilometer fun walk and a 10-kilometer official race, which is KZN Athletics sanctioned and Athletics South Africa. Now, for us as an NGO, as a little NGO, this was a huge win because to be recognized by a provincial and a national body in athletics was quite a big deal. And an event that started with 300 participants, this year we had over 2,000. So that is how we've actually started to rebrand the society again, and that was one of the things. The other one was talk sign, and we were one of the advocates for sign language to be accepted as the 12th official language. And we had a talk sign campaign that ran for many, many years. Actually, it started well before my time, but it was a product that we had to build on, and we had to get it out there to show corporates and organizations, businesses, governments, how important it was for everybody to learn basic conversational sign language. So that was something else. And then it was all the other things that we did. We had to get ourselves there branded, put it out on social media for people to see. And that's how the organization slowly started getting its credibility again. And it wasn't an easy journey. We had a lot of people. We had a radiothon where people called into the radio station, oh, I'm going to give them 100 rand, but where is that 100 rand going to go? Who's going to steal that 100 rand? That type of thing. So all of these things I had to address, and I didn't know what I had let myself into, but it comes to you, because when you work with people and when you work towards something, it comes to you, and you are able to talk to people and to convince them and to reassure them that we are here now and we are here to do the right thing. But I think the biggest turn came in 2023 when the perpetrators of the fraud were eventually sentenced. So the lady, the wife, she got 15 years and the husband got 10 years. So after they were imprisoned, the society, I think, definitely took a turn for the better, because then the public got to know that we did do the right thing. Now, there are many, many NGOs who actually have the same situation where money goes missing and there's a fraud. But I must say that eventually we got the new board, and the support that we have, that I have had from the board members, was actually great. I think coming from a background also made a difference of my family being people who were very community oriented in social work. My dad, he started his professional career as a teacher, but eventually he actually worked as the regional director of the South African National Council for the Blind, the Indian division, back during the 1970s and 80s. And then he was appointed as director of the Ari Benevolent Home. Now, his job as the director of Ari Benevolent Home was where he had to stay on the premises. So we had to leave our home and we had to now go and live in an apartment at this old age and children's home. So I think that is, something that got us so involved in that kind of work, in that kind of situation. And my dad ensured that we all got involved in all kinds of activities at the home. We couldn't just sit at home and do nothing. You had your school holidays, you had your college holidays, and you had to get involved in everything. So I think that's how, I was able to be that person, to be able to work in an NGO situation. I think the inspiration for me comes on a daily basis for the people that we serve. Seeing the joy of graduates from a computer literacy class. When you see how you've changed their lives, you've given them a document that they can now take out there and try to get themselves a job. Unemployment amongst people with disability is over 90%, right? With the blind and deaf, our database of unemployed is huge. It's overflowing, and every year as kids are leaving school, it's getting worse, right? And it's just not matriculants. We are talking grade 6, grade 7, because a lot of these kids were detected with a disability very late, when they were 8, 9 years old. And then they get to school and they get to grade 6, grade 7, and then they realize, we're too old to be amongst all of our, the other learners. So they leave school and then they come to us and then they have no skills. How do you help a child who's got a grade 6 or 7? So this is where we've come in, and we started services like and programs like the sewing machinist course, a sewing repair course, the computer literacy. We have cane work, woodwork, where we are able to teach them skills. And when you see them leaving to either go off and open their own business, to find a job, it inspires you to actually do more. And the one day, it was a Friday, I was actually relaxing at home and watching TV, and I saw this program about a blind chef who won MasterChef USA. And I thought, hey, we can do that, because many blind are actually sitting at home and not being able to take care of themselves. So then I said, I'm going to start a culinary school for the blind. And that materialized, and we opened that in May this year. And it's the first ever in South Africa. And actually on Tuesday, I actually did the course. I did the lesson, and we did a Madeira cake. Now that's the inspiration you get when you see how excited this blind woman was to actually say, I baked this cake. And then she said to me, can I feel the cake? And then she felt the cake, and then she says, now there's that crack on the cake. Why is there a crack on the cake? And I had to say to her, it's because you have a good, the cake is a good cake. You've actually done well. And, these are the things that inspires me every day. If I can make a difference to the lives of 10 or 20 blind and deaf a year, I know I've actually done something good. So as my position is, in terms of our constitution, I can only remain for another 3 years, right? So the last 6 years has been most daunting. And I have to say, I think I'm actually starting to enjoy the position more now, because I'm able to relax a lot more and concentrate on opening more services. So the goals for the future before I actually leave is I want to open a culinary school for the deaf, and we've applied for funding, and I'm hoping that we would get funding, and we want this to be an accredited course. Like the sewing machinist and the computer literacy for the blind and deaf are all accredited courses. I would want this to be an accredited course, because the deaf can do anything in the hospitality industry that a sighted person can, right? And then I would like to actually reintroduce the early childhood detection mobile unit, funding permitted, because that is, as I mentioned earlier, is a very, very important and a very crucial service that I think we could offer preschoolers in rural areas, right? Then I would want to open a coffee shop that's run by the blind and deaf, made with products that are made by the blind and deaf. Now we also have a sewing department where we've created jobs for the deaf, and they produce garments, right? And together with this coffee shop, I would like to have a boutique that would sell the garments that they have. And then next year, I'm hoping that we would be able to set up our recreation room, where the older blind and deaf who actually lead very isolated lives, we'd like to let them come in so that they could come and mingle with each other, watch a movie. I mean, many of our blind have never been to the cinema because of the audiovisual description. How does the blind person watch a movie? And some of them were introduced to it for the first time last year with audiovisual description. And if you actually saw the delight in their faces when they watched a movie. And so that's what actually inspired me to start a recreation room at the society. And we could actually let them come in, have a cup of coffee, sit and watch a movie, or just play games with their friends. There are many NGOs out there like us, and everybody is vying for the same people, where you're trying to get funding from the same people. And it's actually so unfair, because I've been to India recently and I visited a cafe run by blind people and government funded. Where we don't get that. We got to find the money ourselves. All of our services, everything, is funded by fundraising. And it's the community that we actually have to be so thankful to, because it is the community who supports our different events. They actually make all of these things possible. Yeah, so to a young person, I would firstly say to believe in yourself. There would be many people out there that would say that you can't do what you set your mind to, but I think firstly believe in yourself, educate yourself, because your qualification, your certificate is your key to the world. It's what I've told my children, and I would tell any other young woman or young man. And I think I would actually, I live on the 3 C's. You've got to make a choice, to take a chance, to make a change. And I think that's what I've done. And that's what I would actually impart on a young person is, if you want to make that choice, make it. Do it if you actually believe in yourself. So I think believing in yourself. Balance was very difficult because in the last few years, I think I would have my phone and I'd be literally on call all the time, in case there was something that went wrong. But I eventually had to find the balance for my family. So I would spend time with my family. And I think for me, my family is important. Also, being with my close circle of friends is important, who keep me grounded. And I think that's what's important, is when people support you, but keep you grounded as well. I think now also balance comes with having reliable staff that I can actually rely on, so I can go off and relax, knowing that everything is in good hands. And I think when you have staff that you can actually believe and trust, I think that's also helps you with your own balance and in your life.